Yeah. Which one is it? This one. Oh, yeah.
Black and white. Yeah. Sorry, though.
Yeah, it's something.
It might be a little slow. Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, Kyle, you got it.
Shalom. It's brother Mike, WFI Milwaukee.
Brother Naquan.
Coming back at you with another cold cut. I give all honor and glory to Yahweh. But Shema Mashiach Malak Yahushua. Right. It's a Q&A. Right. We're doing a Q&A. Right. For brothers in the room and brothers and sisters at home. Right. Any brother in the room got any questions? Right. Scripture breakdowns, Paul's epistles, or laws you want to go into?
Matthew 17.
Let your brother speak up too, so he comes on.
Matthew 17. I just wanted more understanding on the transfiguration.
Yeah, that's cool.
Say more.
Matthew 17 and what?
17 and you start at 1. Really 1 and 2 is the
Transfiguration. All right. I'm gonna read, King.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 17, and verse 1. And after 6 days, Yahushua taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light.
Yeah. Quick point. A lot of these miracles, a few of the miracles, you realize that only Peter, John, and James were witnesses to them. Right, the transfiguration, the raising of the man's daughter from the womb, from the tomb, and many other miracles. Peter, John, and James, even at the Garden of Gethsemane, right? The Lord took Peter, John, and James in Matthew, the 26th chapter in the book of Luke, and they were eyewitnesses to a high level of Yahushua miracles. This one is another one of these high level miracles that shows the glorification of Yahushua over the law and over the prophets. So that's pretty much what it's going into. Can somebody pull up the transfiguration in the Greek? So we go into that word. And it essentially is Yahushua, like I always break it down, Yahushua made 2 doppelgangers or 2 clones of himself. But one is Elijah and one is Moses. Right? Yahushua could change his form. Throughout his ministry, he was able to escape, get away from persecution. When they wanted to stone him and kill him, he would just change his form and he would blend in and he would just pass by and they weren't able to kill him or do the things that they thought that they would be able to do unto him. So let's pull that up so we can get that in the Greek. And I want to get another precept in Mark chapter 16 real quick. While the brother's pulling that up. Let's go to Mark, the 16th chapter to add to that. And let's go to verse... let's see. Let's get Mark chapter 16 and we can start at...
I got that when you're ready.
Got what?
Matthew in the Greek.
Oh, yeah, pull it up. Yeah, let's read it. Could have went to the blue letter, but that's fine. I believe it's metamorphos or...
yeah, this is the blue letter. It says to change into form.
Can you read up a little louder? Can you up the shot?
It says in the Greek metamorpho, to change into form, to transform, to transfigure.
Right. So it means to transform. Like a caterpillar goes through a metamorphosis in a cocoon and it comes out a whole nother form of butterfly or a moth. Now, a precept for that is Mark chapter 16 and 12. So Yahushua essentially just changed his form. I believe in Christianity, they actually believe that was actually Elijah and actually Moses that came down and it was talking to him. Right? That's not how the spiritual world works to that extent. Yahushua did the transfiguration. So can you go to Mark 16 and 12, Baba Gashar?
It's the book of Mark, chapter 16, and verse 12. After that, he appeared in another form.
In another what?
In another form.
So he appeared in another form. Right? Yahushua could look like this brother, then he could look like this brother. Right? Go on.
Unto 2 of them as they walked and went into the country.
Right, read on.
And they went and told it unto the residue neither believed they them.
Right. Yahushua went into other forms. Go to Luke 24 and 13. It was a common thing. But the transfiguration has more of a spiritual meaning than the other times that Yahushua changed his form. So go to Luke 24, you can start at 12.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 24, and verse 12. Then arose Peter and ran unto the sketchery, and stooping down, he beheld the linen cloths laid by themselves, and departed wondering in himself at the which was to come to pass.
Right.
And behold, two of them went that same day to a village.
This is resurrection. Two of them went the same day in a village
called Emmaus,
right,
which was from Jerusalem about 80 furlongs.
Right.
And they talked together of all these things which had happened.
Yeah, they're talking about the crucifixion, right? How Yahushua was tortured, how he would rise again, right? Everything that was going on. Remember, this was a big deal. This was the Passover. You have millions of Jews in Jerusalem at the time, hundreds and thousands of them. So they're speaking about what happened. Go on.
And it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Yahushua himself drew near and went with them.
So Yahushua joined the walk and he joined the conversation as a stranger. Read on.
But their eyes were holding that they should not know him.
See that? Their eyes were holding because they didn't know that was the Lord. Huh? Yahushua would take on these different forms throughout his ministry. Huh? Yahushua can still do that, man. He could be walking up the street, he could be dealing with somebody. Hey, the Lord and the angels, these spirits, they could take forms like that. See, the angels take different forms all the time. Like when you read the book of Judges, the 13th chapter, you read about Manoah's wife. She saw an angel, but she said that he was like a man with a fierce countenance as an angel of God, right? When Lot met the angels in Luke chapter 19 and 1 on down, he bowed down because they appeared as men, but they were angels. Same thing in Genesis, the 18th chapter. So the angels could change form, but Yahushua had that ability to change form because he was given a spirit without measure, right? Go to John chapter 3. We can't do that right now, right? If we change form right now, that'd be madness, man. Right? Brothers just change form, and I look like, the elders above, right? And you look like the priest Kahan or something like that. That'd be absolute madness, man. Right? Go to John 3 and 33. Ooh, that's what I want.
It's the book of John, chapter 3 and verse 33. He that hath received his testimony hath set his seal that God is true. For he whom God hath sent speaketh the words of God. For God giveth not the spirit by measure unto him.
Read that part again.
For God giveth not the spirit of measure unto him.
Right. God giveth not the spirit by measure unto him. So he's like they had that movie, brothers remember, Limitless. When that Edomite dope out, he was a fiend for them pills. He'll take them pills, and he was limitless, man. Right, his strength, his intelligence, right, his behavior changed. There was nothing that he couldn't do. So we have limits and limitations of what we can do in the spirit, right? We can cast out particular spirits. We can't cast out certain spirits, right? There are certain things that we can do in the spirit. We can pray demons away. We can fast. There are certain things we could do. Yahushua had no limit. He was given a spirit without measure. Right, so that's why he was able to transform or change his form and go through a metamorphosis at any given second. So that's what he's doing in Matthew 17. So let's go back to Matthew chapter 17 real quick. When you read one again, Baba Kashar.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 17, and verse number 1. And after 6 days, Yahushua taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them.
Yeah, and that word is what? Metamorphosis. Right? To go through a metamorphosis. Go on.
And his face there shined as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light.
Right.
And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with them.
Right.
Then answered Peter and said unto Yahushua.
And why Moses and Elias? Why not Haggai and Aaron? Right? Why not Joab and who else? Judas Maccabees. Why Moses and Elias? Because Moses and Elias were significant prophets during the early age of the church. And everybody esteemed Moses and Elias more than any other prophets, right? You read the Gospels in the book of Acts, all they're saying is you're Moses' disciple, right? But I'm the Lord's disciple, or you're following the law of Moses. So Moses did this, Moses did that. Brothers read that all throughout the Gospels, how highly esteemed Moses is from the law's sake, And from the prophet's sake, Elias is highly esteemed. Go to Matthew 16 and 14. Quick precept on that.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 16 and verse 14. And they said, some say thou art John the Baptist, some Elias,
Some who?
some Elias,
Right?
and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets.
So Elijah was always esteemed, man. Because what does the prophecy say about Elijah? Right? When you go to Matthew 17 and verse 10.
It's Matthew chapter 17 and verse number 10. And his disciples asked him, saying, why then say the scribes that Elias must first come?
So everybody was always talking and thinking about the coming of Elijah. That goes back to the book of what? Malachi. Right? Go to Malachi 4 and 5. So Moses and Elias. Moses is a high-level representation of the law, and Elijah is a high-level representation of the prophets. Right? Now, is Yahushua equal to the law? Is he equal to the prophets? Is he equal to this ministry, or is he above? What he came to do, what did it supersede what was there prior to him coming? And the answer is yes, and that's the purpose of the transfiguration. So go to that real quick, Malachi 4 and 5.
It's the book of Malachi, chapter 4 and verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse.
Right, so that's plain, right? The second coming of Elias coming back was always a major deal, right? For the Israelites to be able to look forward to Elias coming. That's when you read the book of Luke, the first chapter, they say that John the Baptist will go in the spirit and power of Elias the prophet, right? So go back to Matthew 17 when you left off.
It's Matthew chapter 17 and verse number 4. Then answered Peter and said unto Yahushua, Lord, is it good for us to be here?
Right, he said, it is good for us to be here. Go on.
If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias.
Yeah, you just put them all on the same level, man. Right? You got
So you think that happened to Moses too when Exodus the 34th chapter when Aaron and the Israelites seen that his face kind of like was like shown? You think he transfigured or
who, Moses?
yeah?
I wouldn't say he transfigured. That was when you read 2 Corinthians the 3rd chapter, 6 on down, it kind of goes into that represents the glory of the law and the glory of Yahushua, right? When you go into that, and we can go into that as well. That's a beautiful account to go into, but that's a little bit different because here Yahushua is being transfigured to show his glorification. This same thing that we're reading about in Matthew 17 that we're about to read happened when Yahushua was baptized. Remember when Yahushua was baptized, the cloud or the chariot came and it said, this is my beloved son and whom I'm well pleased, hear ye him. To show that, yeah, you got John the Baptist here. He's powerful. He's doing his work, but this is the guy right here. Like we on stage and spotlight shine on Mike, right? You know, hey, look, this is the guy. He's the number one guy. Same thing with John the Baptist and Yahushua, right? And it's the same thing with Yahushua, Elijah, and Moses. It's a reinforcement of Yahushua being that God, for lack of better terms. Right, so go back to that in Matthew 17.
It's Matthew, the book of Matthew, chapter 17, and verse number 5.
Read 4 again, Baba Gashah.
Verse 4. Then answered Peter and said unto Yahushua, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias.
Right, so you can't put them all on the same level, man. Right, that's like King David coming to your house and two strangers, man. You gotta treat David a little bit different, man. David not sleeping on the couch. Right? You're not letting David just come, hey, go here. And then you let the stranger get the master bedroom, right? So that's the level that this is on. Yahushua is monumentally over Elijah and Moses. You can't just put them all 3 tabernacles. Like we all just keeping the Feast of Tabernacles. We could do that as men. Right? You know, Yahushua is a little bit different, man. Right, go on.
Verse 5. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them.
A bright what?
A bright cloud overshadowed
It's
them.
not a nimbus cloud, man. That's a chariot.
Right.
That overshadowed them. Right, go on.
And behold, a voice out of the cloud, which said, this is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him.
Hear ye what?
Hear ye him.
Right, go to Matthew the 3rd chapter. Get the precept. Right, get the Matthew chapter 3. Right, Matthew chapter 3 and verse 17.
It's It's the book of Matthew, chapter 3 and verse 17.
Start at 16.
Verse 16. And Yahushua, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water, and
Right.
lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove.
Yeah, that's not a little bird, right? The dove is talking about what? A chariot, right? Why is it called like a dove? Go to Isaiah 31 and 5 real quick, right? It's the same thing in Matthew 17, but it's worded in two different ways. Not an actual little white dove came down, he fluttered his wings on the Lord, and he had a speaker system attached to him. He put the clip on brothers with the microphone, he could talk. It wasn't like that, bro. So go to that, Baba Kashah.
Isaiah 31 and verse 5. As birds flying,
As birds flying,
so will Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, defend Jerusalem. Defending also, he will deliver it, and passing over will preserve it.
our deliverance is likened to birds flying. Because what's going to fly over us? The chariots. And beam us up. That's why it says our salvation is as birds flying. So will the Lord defend Jerusalem. Right? One more quick precept on that. Go to Psalm 68 and 17. One more quick precept on the birds flying. Psalm 68 and 17.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 68 and verse 17. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. Yahweh is among them, as in Sinai, the holy place.
Right? Actually, jump to verse. Start at 13. Start at 12.
Verse 12. Though ye have lion among the pots.
Psalm 68 and 12.
Psalms chapter 68 and verse 12. Kings of armies did flee apace, and she that tarried at home divided the spoil.
Right?
Though you have linen among a lion among the pots,
Right?
yet shall ye be as the wings of a dove.
That's the what?
As the wings of a dove, covered with silver, and her feathers with yellow gold.
Right? Are there doves that have gold wings? No, man. Right? That's too much. That fall is too heavy. It'll be all over the news.
Right.
Everybody will know about it. It'll be a big deal. Right? It'll be all on every major news network. But it's saying, essentially, even though we've been in captivity, yet we're going to have a beautiful deliverance. That's all it's saying. Yet shall you be as the wings of a dove covered with silver and gold, which is speaking about the beautiful deliverance from the what? The chariots, as birds flying. So that's why in Matthew, the Most High put the spirit in Matthew to write it as the spirit of a dove, because that was common understanding for us back then, that the chariots were likened unto birds and doves. Christianity in the world now, they take it and they make everything literal, right? And they turn things to what they shouldn't be. So in Matthew 17, that's that chariot coming down. Same thing as the chariot in Matthew, the 3rd chapter. There's even older paintings you can look up, and it shows Yahushua's baptism, and it's a chariot in the background. I don't know if brother's seen that, but it was painted by our forefathers. It's a huge chariot with the tractor beam shining down on Yahushua being baptized. Because even our forefathers that painted those icons, they knew that Yahushua was baptized and the chariot was around him. Now, go back to Matthew 17 and read This Is My Beloved Son again. 17 and verse 5.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 17 and verse number 5. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And behold, a voice out of the cloud, which said, This is my beloved son.
No, Elias is my beloved son.
This is my beloved son.
No, Moses is.
This is my beloved son,
right?
in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him.
No, go read Leviticus.
Hear ye him.
Do blood sacrifices.
Hear ye him.
Hear ye him, bro. Right? This is the man, right? Anything that he's saying, people back then, well, no, Moses said this, well, the prophet said this. No, this is the God. Hear ye him. That's the purpose of the transfiguration. Yahushua would change his form, the chariot would come down, the Most High put the spotlight on him, and made it known to Peter, John, and James that he is the one, and this is the guy that has preeminence over everybody else. That's why it tells you in Colossians, the 1st chapter, that in all things, he might have the preeminence. Right? Get that last precept for this question, Baba Bashar. Colossians 1 and 16. Colossians chapter 1 and verse 16.
It's the book of Colossians, chapter 1 and verse 16. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in the earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities, or powers. All things were created by him and for him.
Right.
And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence.
That he might have the preeminence, not man, not the law of Moses. Right. That's why they said Moses said, according to the law, the woman must be stoned in John the 8th chapter. Right. What did Yahushua say? Yahushua said what? He that is without sin cast the first stone. Right. So hear him. Don't go, no, Lord. Right? No. Leviticus chapter 20 and 10 says the penalty for adultery is stoning. No, Lord. Or Deuteronomy chapter 22 on down says the penalty for death is you gather up and you stone her. We're going to listen to what Moses said. No, Yahushua said, he said what he said. He said, go and sin no more and leave it at that.
Wow.
Right? And that's the way this thing goes. Right? You got it.
Brother, go back to it. I mean, the brother broke it down well, right? Matthew the 17th chapter. How you started verse 4.
Matthew chapter 17 and verse 4.
Right.
Then answered Peter and said unto Yahushua, Lord, it is good for us to be here.
Right.
If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias.
Right, brothers know what's the mistake that they was making right here?
Putting them all on the same pedestal.
It was putting them all on the same pedestal, right? That's something that most of us do. When it comes down to our lives, the way that we live, our wives, what do we usually put first? Right? We usually put everything else first, the same way that those men did, right? The spirit that we have in us is the same exact spirit that those men walked with Yahushua had in them, right? They put it on the same level, right? Meaning that Moses was just as necessary as Christ, or that Elijah was just as necessary as Christ. Let me tell you something about Elijah, right? He was one of the mightiest men upon the face of Israel, back into righteousness. But what did he do, right? The brother left. Now, I'm not saying that he left the truth or anything like that, but even when Israel was in despair, right? What did he do? He was transcended. He left. Guess what we can't do? We can't transcend. We're here, right? With Moses. Moses was one of the greatest leaders when it came to all of Israel. But what did he do, right? The brother Moses didn't give credit unto the Most High, right? John the Baptist as Elijah, right? When he was in prison, what happened? The brother had a weak moment. Right. Well, there is a difference between Moses, Elijah, and Hamashiach Yahushua. Christ will never fall weak, right? Christ will never leave us, right? So read on.
Reading on verse 5. While he yet spake.
And in the middle of this brother's talking, right? In the middle of him speaking, while he's saying why he should build up this tabernacle. And, Peter was probably a rambling brother. He was a sailor. Them brothers can talk, right? Truck drivers, man. Those brothers can speak. In the middle of him speaking, no. This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased, right? Christ is who we follow after. Give me real fast, Matthew, I think it's 23 and verse 9.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 23, and verse number 9. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Hamashiach.
Now, in Matthew the 19th chapter, right, even Paul, he was calling brothers masters and calling brothers servants, right? It's not saying that it's a sin to call a brother a master, right? The brother Naquan would be my master, right? The brother Tazama, Za'abayala, the heads of your camp would be your master, right? And you have a father. Is it a sin to call somebody your father? It's not. But what we have to understand is even if Naquam is in charge, Naquam's not the one that's giving the call, the calls. He's not the one that's calling the shots, right? Za'abiyala is not the one calling the shots. Tazma isn't the one calling the shots. Yahushua is the one that's calling the shots. Right. And as great as any man might be upon the face of the earth, through him, we're always answering to Yahushua, man. Right. Brother's good.
Beautiful breakdown. King, that makes sense. Right, all praise to the Most High. You got a precept up?
No, I had a question.
Okay, Con.
I had 3 questions. The first one, real quick, it was the breakdown on 2nd Ezra, chapter 5 and 5.
All right, let's go to it. 2nd Ezra, chapter 5 and verse 5.
It's The book of Second Esdras, chapter 5, and verse number 5.
Now start at 1 and get the context, because this is an end time prophecy. You read 2nd Esdras 5, 2nd Esdras 9, books of Revelation, right? Certain chapters have end time prophecy. So bring that up.
Second Esdras, chapter 5, and verse 1. Nevertheless, as concerning the tokens, behold, the day shall come, that they which dwell upon the earth shall be taken in a great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith.
Yeah, the tokens are the signs, right? There are signs on the earth that the Israelites should look out for. Some of the signs is that the famine of the word is going to be prevalent, right? Right now, they're even saying, I'm not sure if brother saw it, that T-Mobile is saying if you start texting things pertaining to hate speech or things pertaining to misinformation, they'll fine you $3,500. $3,500. And the Most High put the spirit in them. T-Mobile bought out a lot of other cellular companies, man. So they're gonna start putting that out there, going through your damn phone. What is this? Right? You can't send this. And if you send it, you get your bill $3,500 for hate speech, man. Right? So this thing, they in your phone line, they tap, they hear all of that stuff, man. Right? So the way of truth is slowly being taken away from the earth. And the Most High said that people are going to be taken into great number, meaning mass killings are going to happen. Read on.
It reads, verse 2, but iniquity shall be increased above that which thou seest, or that which has heard long ago.
Right. Back what you heard long ago. Ezra lived around the time of 457, 455 or so BC. The Most High said that the things you think you see that are wicked now is going to be 10 times more that you see now. And that's what we see now. We see child molesters, pedophiles, people popping animals. Sex trafficking, men with men, right? All types of wickedness, man. Read on.
Verse 2, but iniquity shall be increased above that which thou now hast seen. It's like verse 3. And the land that thou seest now to have root, shall thou see wasted suddenly.
Right, due to what? Famine, economic collapse, wars, destruction. Go on.
Verse 4, but if the Most High grant thee to live,
The Most High allow you to live in the days of war, right?
thou shalt see after the third trump that the sun shall suddenly shine again in the night, and the moon thrice in the day.
Yeah, what is the third trump? The third trumpet. Right, go to Revelation, the 8th chapter. Right, I believe that's verse 2.
Revelation chapter 8 and verse number 2.
Yeah, it goes to the 7 trumpets, right? The 7 trumpets are open during the time of the 7th seal, right? So when you're dealing with we like to say the chronology of prophecy, this is the peak of World War III prior to Yahushua returning, as the bombs are beginning to drop on the earth, right? You can also read about this in 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter, right? So let's read that.
Revelation 8 and 2. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And to another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne.
Right, jump to verse 7.
Verse 7. The first angel sounded.
This is the first trumpet that sounded.
And there followed hail and fire, mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees were burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up.
Yeah, what's the trees and the grass?
Amen.
Man. Right, how do you know?
First Peter 1:20.
Let's get a precept. Let's get a precept for the grass. Right? So grass is speaking about man. Why is man likened unto grass? Due to man's frailty, man's brevity in the earth. Man doesn't live past 70 years old, according to the time that the Most High set up. Right? So grass is likened unto man's short time span on the earth. And trees, brothers know men being rooted, bearing fruit, right? Your family tree, your shoots, your branches, right? Your boughs. So bring that up.
It's the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 6. The voice said, cry. And he said, why shall I cry? All flesh is grass.
All what?
All flesh is grass.
So man is likened unto grass. All flesh is grass. Right, go on.
And all the goodliness thereof is as the flower of the field.
Right.
The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the spirit of Yahweh bloweth upon it.
See, the Most High take the spirit from you, man. And man withers. You get old, you get osteoporosis, arthritis, Alzheimer's, lose their taste, they damn sense of sight, their eyes wax dim, and it's over. Just like the green grass. It's seasonal, right? You don't see the green grass how it is in the spring and the summertime. And man is also likened to trees. So Revelation uses a lot of allegories and dark sayings when it comes to explaining the destruction. Even the hell mingled with fire. Go back to that in Revelation 8 and 7.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 8 and verse 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire, mingled with blood.
Yeah, it's not going to be actual hell mingled with fire. This is not a scary movie, right, or some apocalyptic movie, right? It's simple. See, the so-called white man take this and he just make it. I mean, you look this stuff up online, right? Some of these things in Revelation 9, Revelation 8, you'll be. That's why people. I'm so scared when I read Revelation. I don't know. I just want to read it. What is that? It's not that. I'm not going to say it's not that deep because it's a deep book, but they embellish the imagery about what's going on because they don't use the precepts to explain it. The hell mingled with fire, simply speaking about what? The missiles, the destruction coming from on the earth. But the Lord is causing the hell mingled with fire because it should remind you of the plagues that He did to ancient Egypt. Right? It was actual hell mingled with fire in ancient Egypt and modern Egypt with these 7 last plagues. It is still hell mingled with fire, but it's just hip talk. That's going to destroy the grass and the earth, right? Which is man, right? It makes sense. So let's read on.
Reading on. And they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burnt up,
right?
And all green grass was burnt up,
right? Third part just means a definite amount, or indefinite amount rather, of people, right? Go on.
Verse 8. And the second angel sounded,
because we're said in second Esdras, it said that thou shalt see after the third trumpet, or you should live after the third trumpet. So that's the first trumpet. Here's the second trumpet. Read that.
And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood.
It's not an asteroid. Stop believing what Esau said, man.
Right.
A big meteor is going to come and it's so close to the earth. Brothers ever see that on the news? Like just barely passed. Right? No, man, there's no meteor that just barely passed the earth. He's absolutely winging it.
Right.
I mean, that's the epitome of just winging it.
It's always missing.
It's always barely missing, man. And they can always measure how close it is. Right? There's no asteroid coming to the earth. There's no meteor. It's not a great actual mountain. It's just different ways of explaining the destruction of the missiles coming on the earth during the time of World War III. Right? The Lord also calls these flying swords. Right? You read about that in 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter. Right? Go to that real quick. 2nd Esdras 15. Right? So these are what's going on in those trumpets. And it's going to tie back into the brother question. Right? Go to 2nd Esdras 15 and that's 41. Start at 40.
It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 15 and verse 40.
So this is saying the same thing.
The great and mighty clouds shall be lifted up, full of wrath.
Right, those are your jets, right? Your war helicopters, your fighter planes. This isn't speaking about the chariots, right? Go on.
And the star, that they may make all the earth afraid.
They're going to be shooting down stars, which are what? The missiles. Right? So they're also called stars. Go on. The chariots are going to be shooting down missiles. Right? Go on.
And them that dwell therein, and they shall pour out over every high and eminent place and a horrible star.
What are the high and eminent places? London, Berlin, Paris, New York City, Tokyo, Beijing, right? Madrid in Spain, Lisbon, Portugal. These are your high eminent places are going to be shot down with the stars, which is just hip talk for the ICBM missiles that are going to be shot in the earth, right? But it's also called a revelation, hell mingled with fire, or a great mountain, or a burning lamp, right? It's all saying the same thing. Read on.
Fire and hail.
Well, hold on. What did it say?
Fire and hail.
Same thing in Revelation 8. Fire and hail.
And flying swords.
There's no flying swords, man. There's no Houdini up there, right? Magician up there just taking them out. And no, man. Flying swords, which is what? Aerial weapons.
Right.
What? Missiles, man. Right? Go on.
And many waters, that all fields may be full, and all rivers with the abundance of great waters.
Go on.
And they shall break down the cities.
And they shall what?
And they shall break down the cities and walls, mountains and hills.
Right. Go on.
Trees of the wood.
Trees of what?
Trees of the wood.
So you have mountains, which are kingdoms, larger kingdoms. You have hills, which are what? Smaller kingdoms. You have Salaki, what else is it? Trees of the wood, right? Which is what? People. And it's also going to cause natural destruction on the earth as well. Right? Trees of the wood, and what else?
And grass of the meadows and their corn.
So you have to link the precepts up, right? Green grass, trees, the sea. You tie it in with 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, and other precepts, and it tells you exactly. These are parallel precepts, right? That go exactly with the destruction of Revelation 8 during the time of the second trumpet. Brother, see that? All right, go back to Revelation 8. Read Revelation 8 and 7 one more time.
Revelation chapter 8 and verse 7. The angel, so the first angel
It's like
sounded.
8 and 8.
Verse 8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain, burning with fire, was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood.
Who's the sea?
Man.
People, the nations, right? They're the sea. Go to Isaiah, right? Isaiah 17 to 13. Get a quick precept on that. Man is likened unto the sea. That's what this Bible ain't for everybody, man. Right? Go to your pastor and ask him to go into it, man. What does he always say? That's sealed. Right. That's sealed, son. All right, come here. Let me see what you got on. All right. Where's your little brother at? Right. That's all he wants to know, like TD Jakes, power bot, right? Right? Yeah, but I'm not gonna quote what he said. Brother saw what he said on stage, man. Yeah, but Ben, and he started asking these vain little questions, man. So bring that up.
Isaiah chapter 17 and verse 13.
Right?
The nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters.
So the nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters. People are likened it to waters, right? People crowd surf, right? People do the wave in the stadium, right? People, what else they do? There's something called a sea of people. I don't know if brothers ever heard that terminology. They looked into it and they saw a sea of people, right? So even in this man's world, they know that masses of people are likened unto waters. All right, go on.
But God shall rebuke them.
But the what?
But God shall rebuke them,
right?
And they shall flee far off.
Go on.
And shall be chased as the chase of the mountains before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the world.
So the nations are likened unto waters. Go back to Revelation chapter 8.
Revelation chapter 8 and verse number 9. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea had life, and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed.
Right.
And
that's your navy, your aircraft carriers, the people, right? Everything. Go on.
Verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven.
Now this is your third trumpet that we read about in 2nd Ezra chapter 5. The Most High said, if the Most High grant thee to live, thou shalt see after the third trumpet. So here's your third trumpet, meaning men are going to be alive when missiles start hitting the other parts of the earth, right? Now, are we going to be able to watch it on the news? No, we might be pilgrims in the earth. You've been in the wilderness somewhere, trying to figure out how to survive, being protected by the Most High. And meanwhile, destruction is going to be taking place on the earth. That's why it says Yahweh Shah is going to come as a thief in the night. It's not saying it's going to come literally right now, right? It's speaking about immediately after the tribulation. That's what it tells you in Matthew 24 and 30. Shall thou see the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So him coming in a thief in the night, it will have to be the night season. And the night season is when this man's sun and moon goes down. You understand? His sun goes down, paraphrasing, his wisdom and his understanding. That's the time period of Yahweh Shah being a thief in the night. Right now, the sun is still up, but it's slowly going down, but it's not nighttime yet. Brothers understand? Now go read on, King.
It reads, burning as it were a lamp.
Burning what?
Burning as it were a lamp.
Same thing, just talking about the destruction from the missiles. Go on.
And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters.
Yeah, man are likened unto rivers as well, and fountains of waters. What is a double-minded man likened unto?
Yeah, no, stay.
Like a wave. Get that in James chapter 1. Right? 1 and 8. So that's why it says the rivers and the fountains of waters, because man are likened unto waves, rivers, waters. You know, all of that. Right? Bring that out.
It's the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
Right, go on.
Verse 11. For the son is no sooner.
Is that 7?
It's like verse 9. It's like
9.
verse 9. Let the brother of low degree rejoice.
6. Yeah, 6. Lock it. Bring that out.
Come, verse 6. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea.
What?
It's like the wave of the sea.
So you put a bunch of waves together, you get a nation. So one man is likened to a wave, right? Going like a wave of the sea.
Driven with the wind and tossed.
Right, that's plain. So man is the rivers, the fountains of waters, waves, seas. Like I said, they even like if they do the crowd surfing, a sea of people. These are worldly examples, right? People do the wave, they do all of that, and they look like water.
Yeah,
You watch it, it looks like an actual water, man. Right? People get trampled in a flood, right? So go to there's something called in war, the tide of war, right? Brothers ever hear that? You may have the upper hand, and they say the tide of war has changed because battles and war shift. Sometimes somebody has the upper hand, sometimes they don't. Just like the tide, you have a high tide, right, and it's conquering the earth. Then you have a low tide, and the earth is conquering the waters. So even that's why nations and armies are likened to floods as well when you go into the scriptures, right? So go back to Revelation 8 and read that one more time. 8 and
10 or 11.
11.
Revelation chapter 8 and verse 11. And the name of the star is called wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter.
Yeah, it's not an actual star named Wormwood, right? Wormwood is what?
Bitter.
Bitter. So what is it saying? The destruction is going to be bitter, right? It's going to be not just bitter. It's going to be the epitome of bitter, right? There's no other word that you could describe the destruction coming to the earth, right? That's why it says the name of the star is called Wormwood, just like the Most High's name is called Jealous, right? What does that mean? His name is jealous.
That's the spirit that he is.
That's the spirit that he in. And it's nothing else. He's in that spirit so much, his name is jealous. Right? Like we always say, a brother might say, look, man, I am basketball, man. Right? Okay. I am him. Jake say that now, I'm him. Right? I am boxing. Right? I am golf. Whatever's somebody into, man. The Most High is jealous. This star is called Wormwood. Right? So they sum up everything that comes with destruction and bitterness. Those are the missiles. Now go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 5. Right? So now we know what it means when it says, thou shalt see after the third trumpet. 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and read 4 again.
2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 4. But if the Most High grant thee to live,
because everybody ain't going to live during those times, man. Millions of people are going to die. Right? Go on.
Thou shalt see after the third trump that the sun shall suddenly shine again in the night, and the moon thrice in the day.
Yeah, the sun and the moon is symbolic for what? Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. That's what the sun and moon symbolizes. So the sun and the moon shining again in the night, and the moon thrice in the day is speaking about understanding. Right? You're going to see that the Most High is going to have the light, because Esau has a sun and the moon, and we have a sun and the moon. His sun and the moon is going to be going down. Right. Our sun and the moon is going to be brighter, and our deliverance is coming. Our hope is coming. Our salvation is coming. Because by the time, if you made it past the third trumpet, you only got 4 more, you on your way out of here, man. Right? Go to Isaiah 30 and 26. Everybody has a sun and the moon. In Revelation, Israel is clothed with the sun and the moon. Right? Which is symbolic for the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Because what does the sun and the moon give you? Like, why are they created? They're created to be a light. And what is our light? The law or the commandments in Yahushua. Right? So our light and the deliverance and the sign of Yahushua is going to be brighter and brighter. Right? While Esau's sun and moon is going to be going down. This is part of his kingdom. He has his sun and his moon to operate his kingdom. We have our sun and our moon to operate our kingdom. Right? Now bring that out in Isaiah 30 and 26.
It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 30 and verse 26. Moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days, and the day that the Lord bindeth up the breach of his people, and healeth the stroke of their wound.
Right. It doesn't mean it's going to be 1,000 degrees outside. Right. Oh man, the light of the sun is going to be sevenfold. Oh, it's too hot. What do we? No, man. It's speaking about the what? The wisdom and understanding. Right? The kingdom that's being made manifest when Yahweh returns. But it's just a metaphor. Right? These are all everything we're going into are metaphoric, parabolic, dark sayings, allegories, hyperboles. Right? So go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and read verse 5.
2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse number 5. And blood shall drop out of the wood.
Yeah, that's not talking about. I saw a video. Somebody cut a tree open. They said, "You see that? This is 2nd Ezra 5." I don't know if brother saw that.
Yes,
but it was like some red liquid.
some sap.
Yeah, some sap. And that happens all the time, huh? Right? Trees have been created from the foundation of the world on the 3rd day. So it's not speaking about an actual. You cut the tree open and there's actual blood. Right? Speaking all of these metaphors, these allegories. Go to Psalms 49 real quick. Get a quick precept, right? Because I don't want to just keep saying it. Go to Psalms 49 and 3.
Psalms 49 and verse number 3.
Trees are men, right? So it's just going into the destruction that's going to happen to men on the earth during that time. Blood shall drop out of the wood, right? That's what we read in 2nd Ezra 15 about the trees and the wood being destroyed, mountains and hills being destroyed, and it being overflown with waters. And it ties directly into Revelation, the 8th chapter. Trees, mountains, wood, all of these have always been dark sayings speaking about men. So bring that up, Baba Kishah.
Psalms 49 and verse 3. My mouth shall speak of wisdom, and the meditation of my heart shall be of understanding. I will incline my ear to a parable. I will open my dark saying upon the heart.
I will open my what?
I will open my dark saying upon the heart.
Right, these are dark sayings, man. That's why you need the light of the sun and the light of the moon to understand what the Most High has. Because what darkness does is darkness doesn't take away the presence of something. All it does is what? Cover. Right? When the light is dark, it doesn't mean that there's nothing there anymore. Right? All it means is something has been covered up by the Most High. So these dark parables, the true understanding has been covered up. So you need the light of the sun and the light of the moon to be able to get the true understanding. Just like when it's nighttime, it's covered up until the sun is out, right? And then the peak of the sun is what? Noonday, right? So go back to 2nd Ezra 5 and 5. The blood shall drop out of the wood. It's symbolic for the destruction of man. Man is likened unto the wood. The wood is a forest. Men are likened unto forests in the Bible, right? And I'm going to get a quick precept on that. So read 5 and 5 one more time.
2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 5. And blood shall drop out of wood.
And blood what?
And blood shall drop out of wood.
Now hold that. Now go to Ezekiel. I believe that's chapter, is that 31? Right? It's drop your word against the forest. Right? I believe that's, boy, I have to get that precept. Is that it, 31?
31 and 3. Syria with the Syria and Lebanon.
You can get that one, but there's another one. I may find it in Ezekiel when the Most High spoke about Israel being a forest. 20?
20 and 46.
Yeah, that's what I want. Let's get that.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 20 and verse number 46. And it reads, Son of man, set thy face toward the south.
The south is Jerusalem, Judea. Go on.
And drop thy word toward the south, and prophesy against the forests of the fields of the south.
Right up the south field.
Sorry, the south field.
What's the forest of the south field? Judea, Jerusalem. All right, go on.
And say to the forests of the south, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will kindle a fire in thee, and it shall devour every green tree in
Every
thee.
green tree, every prosperous, healthy, wise man. Go on.
And every dry tree.
Every poor man. Read on.
The flaming flame shall not be quenched, and all the faces from the south to the north shall be burnt therein.
Read.
And all flesh shall...
What is that forest?
And all flesh
He's explaining. And all flesh.
shall see that I, Yahweh, have kindled it. it shall not be quenched.
Here's the point.
Then said I, O Lord God, they say of me, doth he not speak parables?
Doth he what?
Doth he not speak
I was
parables?
mad at Ezekiel, man. Why is he speaking all these parables, man? Right? Because that is a parable in 2 Ezra 5, right? About the wood and the blood dropping out of the wood and speaking about the destruction coming to man. Now, there's another part of 2 Ezra 5. Go back to 2 Ezra 5. It said, blood shall drop out of wood, and what else?
2 Ezra 5 and 5. Blood shall drop out of wood, and the stone.
And the what?
And the stone.
And the stone. And men are likened unto stones. Right? When you read the book of 1 Peter, right? Men are likened unto lively stones. Men are likened to temples, streets. The Lord said we like our bodies like streets that men walk over. Right? In the book of Isaiah. Right? We're likened to cities. Right? So read that again.
And the stone shall give his voice, and the people shall be troubled.
Right?
And even shall he rule, whom they look not for that, dwell upon the earth.
Read 6 again.
And even he shall rule.
And even he shall rule,
whom they look not for, that dwell upon the earth.
Even he shall rule who's the they?
The people.
The people, the nations. Who's the he that's going to rule that people aren't looking forward to ruling? The Lord. And even he shall rule. Read 6 again.
And even he shall rule, whom they look not for, that dwell upon the earth.
And what?
And the fowls shall take their flight away together.
Now when it says the stone shall give his voice and the people shall be troubled, go to Psalms 118 and 22. That's speaking about Yahweh Shah. On one level, it's speaking about this word being made manifest, right? The roaring of the lion to the eagle, right? On another level, we're speaking literally about Yahweh Shah. All right, so go to Psalms 118 and 22.
Psalms chapter 118 and verse 22. The stone which the builders refuse is become the head stone of the corner. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes.
The stone that who's the builders?
Us.
Right, us. Now, really, the builders are the wicked Israelites, right? Because they refused Yahweh Shah. Chiefly the Pharisees, right? Chiefly the Sadducees, right? And they said, we refuse Yahweh Shah. We want to build up Israel off the back of the Romans, right? Through sorcery and damn covetousness. So Yahweh Shah is a stone. The stone. Go to Isaiah 8 and 13. Isaiah 8 and 13. The 2 Ezra 5 has a lot of hyperbolic and parabolic talk. And if you try to take it literal, it's going to throw away your understanding. You're going to think, oh, well, the tree is giving wood, and then the fish are going to cast away the sea. You can't take, especially in 2 Ezra. Chiefly the 5th chapter. When you go into that chapter, the sodomitish sea and the fowls taken away, the Most High is giving hyperbolic talk, or what they call idioms. Can the brother pull up those two words? Idiom and a hyperbole. If I say go break a leg, that's an idiom. If I say it's raining cats and dogs, that's hyperbolic talk, right? So it's just different ways of speaking about how confusion is going to be made manifest on the earth during the end of the world, prior to Yahweh Shah return, when the prophecies are out and the destruction's coming on the earth, right? Then we have a precept, Isaiah 8 and 13. While the Kazuma pulls those up.
It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 8 and verse 13. Sanctify Yahweh of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. And he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling.
So he's a sanctuary for us, but he's a stone of stumbling for the wicked Israel. Why are you reading that Bible? Who wrote it? Do you see people who wrote that book?
Right.
What version is that? Right? Anytime you hear something like that, you know it's about to go down.
Right.
You know what's going down, right? What version is that? Right? Who wrote that book? Right? So read that again.
It says, he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling.
But for a stone of stumbling.
And for a rock of offense.
And a rock of offense.
To both of the houses of Israel, for a gin, and
that's
for
a gin. The gin is a trap. For a gin.
For a gin, and for a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem.
Trapped up in this thing. So pull up them definitions, Baba Kashar, if you got it.
Idiom. It says a statement of the exact meaning of a word especially in a dictionary.
I want to say that again.
It says a statement of the exact meaning of a word. Oh, it's another one. It says an exact statement or description of the nature, scope, or meaning of something.
Right. So it's not something that's literal. It's something that takes the characteristic of something. Right. Is that the only definition?
No, it's about 3 of them.
What's another one?
The action or process of defining something.
Right. No, you put the definition.
Yeah.
No, hold on, go up. Go up, King Babashah.
Put idiom definition and pop in.
Yeah, it looked like you got the definition. Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
I gotta pull it up.
You can answer that.
All right. Yeah, bring that up. Or we can ask Alexa, don't.
Idiom. It says a group of words established by usage as having a meaning, not deducible from those of the individual words.
Not deducible, right? Deductive reason or to do something, to deduce is just following a streamline of logic, right? That somebody may say birds fly, this thing flies, therefore this may be a bird, right? That's deductive reasoning. So an idiom takes things out of deductive reasoning. Things that should make sense, an idiom is going to use words that's not going to make sense, right? To prove a point, right? So read that definition again.
Definition, it reads, a group of words established by usage as having a meaning not deducible from those of the individual words. Examples. Cat got your tongue.
Yeah, is that literal, man? No, the cat can't. I've never seen a cat get somebody's tongue. Right, go on.
Once in a blue moon.
Once in the blue moon.
To go down in flames.
To go down in flames. Now, that's not an idiom for Babylon. Babylon's literally going down in flames.
Right.
You can't say, no, that's an idiom. That's hip talk. It's not hip talk, right? It's literally going down in flames. Now, what's the hyperbole? You got that one?
Yeah, it says an exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally.
Hold on. Say that one again.
Exaggerated statements.
Exaggerated statements
or claims.
Claims
not meant to be taken literally.
You can't take it literally. Right? So you got metaphors, allegories, hyperboles, idioms. Once you understand how Jake talks, remember that we're Israelites, and this is written by Israelites.
Right.
And you keep that in your mind and apply the ancient mind with it, you'll fare well. But if you start thinking like a so-called white man and a Christian, and you're because Esau is very logical. He's very carnal. He's very literal about things, man. Right? He's always trying to figure something out and put a number to it. You can't really do that with the scriptures, man. You got to let this thing flow in the spirit, right? And you got to have a spiritual mind to understand it. Otherwise, you'll think that, like I said, blood is literally going to start dropping forth out of the wood, man. Right? So does that answer that?
Yeah.
You got precept for that?
No,
Sure.
Yeah, you covered it.
All right, all praises.
That's on the comment board.
Oh, somebody. Okay. I know he had.
Add one more.
All right. Okay,
Real
Con.
quick,
Oh, you answer.
so Isaiah 66 and 17, when it says trees, is that the little tree or
Let's
is
go
it
to
talking
it.
about man?
Let's go into it. It's a good question. Isaiah chapter 66. Let's start at 15.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 66, and verse number 15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebukes with flames of fire. For by fire and by a sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree, in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith Yahweh.
Right. So what it's saying is that man that's hiding amongst the nations and blending in amongst these other nations. Right. That's what it says, behind one tree in the midst. Right. Go back to Genesis. Go to Genesis, the 3rd chapter. Right. Genesis chapter 3. Because the Most High is not just coming for people in gardens. Right. You got your cucumber garden. This is my melons. I'm kind of hiding up, eat my pork. And no, it's not. It's not that on that level. Right. Go to Genesis chapter 3 and 7.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 7. And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons.
Right?
And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day.
Walking in the garden in the cool of the day. What was in the garden? Many trees, which are the men. Right? Go on.
And Adam said, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden.
Amongst it, behind one tree in the midst. And that's what they were freaking off, man. Right? Committing idolatry and serving the gods of the other nations. Go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 24 and verse 30. Start at 29.
Sirach, Ecclesiasticus chapter 24 and verse 29. For her thoughts are more than the sea, and her counsels.
Start at 25.
Verse 25. He filled all things with his wisdom as
That's Physon.
Physon, and as Tigris, and the time of the new fruits.
Right? These are different bodies of water. Right? The Physon is another name for the Red Sea. Right? Going to Tigris is still the Tigris, right? Going carries that name to this day.
And maketh the doctrine of knowledge appear in the light.
Right? He maketh yeah, right. Go on. Hold on, where you at?
Verse
Read 26.
Verse 26. Consolation. He maketh the understanding to abound like Euphrates, and as Jordan in the time of the harvest.
What is the purpose of why in ancient horticulture, agriculture, were people looking forward to the river flooding, like the Nile River or the Euphrates? What would happen?
Crops will be
Crops would grow, right? Fruit would abound. Like the time of the barley harvest, which is the first month of the year, they look for the banks of Jordan to overflow. So wisdom is likened to rivers that overflow on who? On man. Because man is that land. Man is a garden, right? Man or nations are likened to these different land masses and pits where the rivers abound, right? And that's how the fruit comes forth. Go to real quick precept, Joshua 3 and 15. That's what I want. And we're going to go back to that. We'll go to Joshua, the 3rd chapter. I believe that's verse 15.
Joshua chapter 3 and verse number 15. And as they that bear
What is that? 15. Yeah, 15.
Joshua chapter 3 verse 15. And as they that bear the ark were come unto Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, for Jordan overfloweth all his banks all the time of the harvest.
So the Jordan River overflows during the time of the harvest. The harvest is the barley harvest, right? Which is the first month of the year. So when that harvest overflows, it brings forth what? A rapid increase of what? Crops, fruit to bear so that people can harvest it because the waters are going to bring forth the nutrients, right? So when you go back to Ecclesiastes 24, now that water is likened to wisdom and man is likened to a garden or the land, right? Makes sense? So go back to Ecclesiastes 24 and read verse 26 again.
Sirach, Ecclesiasticus chapter 24 and verse 26. He maketh the understanding to bound like Euphrates, and as Jordan in the time of the harvest.
Right.
He maketh the doctrine of knowledge appear as the light, and as Gion in the time of vintage.
Gion is the Nile River, right? Go on.
The first man knew her not perfectly. No more shall the last find her out.
Right.
For her thoughts are more than the sea, and her counsels profounder than the great deep.
Read.
I also came out of the brook from a river, and as a conduit into a garden.
Right.
I said, I will water my best garden.
Read that again.
I will water my best garden.
I will water my best garden. In Isaiah chapter 66, it says, behind one tree in the midst, right? Or in the gardens, eating swine's flesh. I will water my best garden. Wisdom waters the best gardens. Men are likened to gardens. Nations are likened to gardens. And gardens have trees, right? Gardens have, when you read Song of Solomon, it says, come into my garden, my sister, my spouse. And it speaks about everything in the garden, frankincense trees, aloes. These are prophets, apostles, men, right? We'll get that precept after this. Read on.
I said, I will water my best garden, and I will water abundantly my garden bed.
So what happened?
And lo, my brook became a river, and my river became a sea.
You see that? So you increase, right? The Most High sends forth more wisdom and more understanding, but it waters your garden, right? Go to Song of Solomon, chapter 4 and 16. Start at 4 and 12. Right? Song of Solomon, chapter 4 and 12.
The book of Song of Solomon, chapter 4 and verse 12. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed.
So on one level, a woman could be likened to a garden. Because what does her husband do? He plant his seed, man. He's not sitting up there, okay, I got my garden. Let me sit there and figure out what's going on. Right? If you try to figure out what's going on with your garden, maybe you shouldn't be a husband, man. Right? You try to figure out what to do in your garden, man. It's time to fertilize your garden, man. It's time to plant your seed in your garden and bring forth your fruit, man. So a woman is likened to a garden too, man. She's the soil, and that's what the Most High calls man a husbandman, right? Because you plant your seed in the garden. That's where the word husband comes from, right? Go on.
Verse 13. My plants are an orchard of pomegranates with pleasant fruits. Campfire with spikenard.
Right? These are different spices. Go on.
Spikenard and saffron.
These have a lot of health benefits when you look it up. Right? Go on.
Calamus and cinnamon with all trees of frankincense.
Who's the trees of frankincense in the garden?
The
elect. They're the trees of frankincense in the garden. This is the garden of the Most High. Esau got a garden too, right? Which is the world. So people are going to be, to your question, how are they behind one tree in the midst, in the garden, eating swine's flesh in the world, rather than church, rather than in the basement, rather than the apartment complex, rather than at Outback, rather than McDonald's, bring it back to McRib. The Mc hot dog now. The McGlizzy. So they bringing back the McGlizzy and the McRib, man. So those people are going to be destroyed, man.
Right.
The pork eating Israelite, man.
Right.
Who says all praises as he eats pork. Right. And slices it with his honey glaze or his lucky not, because he might do a video. It was a honey glaze. Right. It was Coca-Cola glaze. And he'll slice it up and he'll cuss us out and he'll eat it, man. Men like that aren't going to make it.
Right.
So that's what it's talking about the garden and the trees, King.
Been jacking up this whole time.
Yeah, that's madness. Yes.
I'm going to read 66 and 17 again. You will plug it up.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 66, and verse number 17. They that sanctify
You start at verse 16.
Verse 16. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many.
So they said, like what the Lord is going into, he's saying that there's things that's going on upon the earth, that the only way that he can cleanse it is by blood.
Right.
It's by death. Right, read on.
They that sanctify and
so what does it mean to sanctify yourself? To cleanse yourself, right? Read on.
And purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree.
Right. So like how I said, right, to sanctify and cleanse themselves behind the side of the gardens. Right. The brother went into, right, the gardens can go into nations, can go into peoples. Now, what does a tree do? It's a precept in the law, I forgot it. Right. But when you go on a war against another nation, right, it said to not cut down the trees that feed you. Right? So trees can go into what feed people. Right? What feeds you. Right? What feeds America? Right? Christianity. Government. That's what feeds them. That's what feeds this country. Right? Or this garden. Right? What feeds the Middle East. You might have Islam. Right? When it comes down to like every group of people or every way of living, right? It's always some type of philosophy that they have that they use to justify or sanctify their evil.
Right.
Right? It's always something. Right now, you have. At first, it all started with homosexuality. Brothers might not know, right? Homosexuality used to be a mental disorder back in the 80s.
Right.
Right. Now it's okay to be a homosexual. It's not just okay to be a homosexual, but you're promoted to be a homosexual. Right. Your president is making it legal for you to legally marry somebody of the same gender. Right. What do homosexuals say? They say if you feeling that homosexual feeling, you should act upon it. You shouldn't. They say not to be. What's crazy, right, is they say not to be closed-minded, right? You got to be open-minded, But if a child feels like they're a homosexual, they don't tell them to be open-minded to being straight.
Right.
You got to be closed-minded. You can only be a homosexual, or you can only live that lifestyle. That's what they do. They sanctify themselves, right, with some type of philosophy that they have. Right? Brothers ever heard of NAMBLA?
Yeah.
Right. What is called NAMBLA? The North American Association
Man, boy, love.
for Man Boy Love. Right. They find some type of way, right, to justify their evil,
right,
with some philosophy.
Quick point. They got MAT too, which is minor attracted people.
Yeah,
and they got their own flag with the white that means innocence.
Wow. White mean innocence?
Yeah, it's in their flag. It means they're innocent.
That's mad. That's absolute madness.
Right.
But they always find a reason to sanctify, purify themselves wherever they are. Right? You can be in the Middle East, right? And this is the hypocrisy behind Christianity, right? For not even just them, but the pork dude. What's his? We ain't gonna say the brother name. Yeah. Right? But the pork brother,
KD.
Right? The brother KD. For some reason, right? They always try to find some way to justify them eating pork.
Right.
Like, and what's a question people usually ask when you like, oh, I don't eat pork? They're like, but if it was the only food, if it was the only food, you still wouldn't eat it?
Right.
Like, it's not complete countries in Africa and in the Middle East that don't eat pork.
Right.
That are third world countries that are absolutely poor, that even though they don't have food on a daily, what will they never eat? They will chase around a chicken until they fall out from dehydration, but they'll never eat the swine. But a Christian always finds, you said you had a point.
Yeah, the point on what you were talking about. Iran, they have one pig in their whole country and it's in the zoo.
See that?
So you can know what a pig looks like.
Damn.
Yeah.
Like, that's the madness. But a Christian gonna always, or KD, right, gonna always find a way to sanctify themselves, right, to eat swine's flesh, or to do whatever abomination that it is that they want. Right? You can keep reading.
Reading on, verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
Behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination, and the mouse,
right,
shall be consumed together.
What did the Lord say?
Shall be consumed together.
What is the only way to get rid of that evil?
Shall be consumed together.
Right, you can finish it out.
Saith Yahweh.
Right, the Lord said the only way to free the world of that evil is death. That's the only way. Right?
The brothers got it. That's how you're gonna cleanse it. All right. I had that precept in the law if you need it.
God, you can read it.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 20 and verse 19. When thou shalt besiege a city a long time, and making war against it to take it.
So when you go into war against another city, right, brothers, I don't know if brothers know, but usually battles last a long time.
Right.
Right, wars last a long time. War ain't never an overnight thing, right? Brothers might see, how when we were at it with Benjamin, right, they was kind of handing it to us. It was kind of quick, right? Every war ain't like that. Right, sometimes war goes on for months. I just saw the Napoleon Bonaparte movie that came out. Right, he was going at it for a long time. Through seasons, you can watch the seasons change sometimes when you go into war. Right? So when you pitch in war against the nation, right, for a long time,
and making war against it to take it, thou shalt not destroy the trees thereof,
right,
by forcing an axe against them.
Right.
For thou mayest eat of them, and thou shalt not cut them down.
Right. So when you go into war, right, not only do you need food, but what else do you need? What is war usually for?
Shelter.
Right, for shelter and for fire. And then what do brothers usually want to do? When it's cold outside, it's this show they got called Naked and Afraid. Right? Most of those people usually cancel out of the show because it was too cold. Right? So what you naturally gonna want to do is you're gonna want to build a shelter, you want to build a fire, right? You might use it for weaponry, you might use it for your bows. But the Lord said that certain trees are not meant for that, it's meant for food. Right? It's meant for you to eat from. Right, so I just gotta go into that to show, right, sometimes a tree can be symbolic of what you eat from or what feeds you.
Right. That's why it says, for the tree of the field is man's life, to employ them in the siege. Tasman, you got another question?
Yeah, quick. On Luke 3:23, for the clarification, for the ass was supposed, was that talking about his age?
Yeah, that's so let's go to it. Let's read it.
the book of Luke, chapter 3.
Somebody put the definition of parentheses. That'd be sure.
Luke chapter 3 and verse number 23. And Yahushua himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, which was the son of Heli.
Right. What are they saying? That, as was supposed, he was the son of Joseph? Is that what they're saying?
Well, it's different. They say like that was his age, but mostly they say that was, why would they say that if he was the son of Joseph already, as was supposed?
Yeah, I've never heard of that being used for as the son of Joseph, more so of his age. But let's pull up the definition of a parentheses, Baba Kashab. Because a parentheses is an afterthought. It's not necessarily substantial evidence. That's why it's in parentheses, right? That's what it says as was supposed, right? So let's pull that up.
It says a word, clause, or sentence inserted as an explanation or afterthought into a passage that is grammatically complete without it.
That is what?
That is grammatically complete without it.
So you don't really, it didn't have to say that, right? It wasn't necessary, right? But the translators, when they went into it, from the Greek and into the English, they put it in there because the common understanding at the time of Yahushua's age was he began his ministry at the age of 30, all the way up until AD 33 when he was crucified. But now there's talk and debate going on of Yahushua being born prior, around like so-called 4 BC, and his ministry being from 27 AD to 30 AD. So the parentheses is the afterthought. But if they're saying that that's applied to Joseph as was supposed, I mean, there are a plethora of precepts and understanding we can go through to show that Joseph is indeed the biological father of our Lord. You want to go into those? You want to go into something? One of those precepts or so?
What was the precept that he had asked a question about?
Luke 3 and 23.
Luke 3 and chapter 20, verse 3. 23. Right, brother can read it.
Luke chapter 3 and verse 23.
Mhm.
And Yahushua himself began to be about 30 years of age, and being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph.
Right, I done heard brothers kind of go into it and break it down both ways real fast. Brother Peter go to Acts chapter 2 and verse 29. Right, I heard brother go, right, chiefly I thought it was talking about his age. Right, but as was supposed, right, referring to the way it was supposed to be. Right, Acts chapter 2 and start at verse 29.
Acts chapter 2 and verse number 29. And it reads, Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sceptre is with us unto this day. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that God has sworn with an oath to him, that God has sworn with an oath to
So
him,
it says that God had sworn with an oath to him, right, to do what we doing?
that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he will raise up a Mashiach to sit on his throne.
So when it says up to the fruit of his loins, right, so when it say as was supposed, that's because that was the way it was supposed to be. Like a lot of times brothers will read the old English and they'd be like, as was supposed, they're saying, oh, well, he was like questioning whether or not that was his son, right? So when it says as was supposed, it's saying as was supposed to be, right? That's the way it was supposed to happen, right? He was supposed to come in the loins of David.
And quick precept, go to Numbers 4 and 39, just dealing with the age. So there's a lot of similarities between the priesthood of Yahushua or Melchizedek and the Levitical priesthood. And the age of 30 is when men entered into the tabernacle to do their service, right? So bring it up in Numbers 4 and 39.
It's the book of Numbers, chapter 4 and verse 39. From 30 years old.
From what?
From 30 years old and upward, even until the 50th year. Even unto 50 years old, everyone that entereth into the service for the work in the tabernacle of the congregation.
Right, and that's when Yahushua began his ministry, around the age of 30 to enter into the work. Even the priests, they have to take a wife that is a virgin of their own people. And that's something that Yahushua is also keeping. He's going to take a virgin of his own people, which is what? The 144,000. Right there are the virgins of his own people. There's a lot of similarity, even a washing, right? Yahushua was baptized, right? The priests have to be washed, right, before they go and enter into their service as well. So the age of 30 is an ideal age in the ancient world of significance for men to enter into their service, right? Amalek now they say 13. They say 13 is an ideal age. Where's it at in the scriptures, right? A bar mitzvah, right? Then they got a bat mitzvah for the she devils, right? That's not age 20 was significant in the ancient world. Even the age of 3 was significant. The age of age 30, age 50, there are significant ages. 70, 80 in the ancient world that was monumental in the life of an Israelite. But yeah, we all know plain as upon table say Yahweh Shai was indeed, I mean, he's an Israelite, man. Right. That's one of the plainest cuts, man. Right? So yeah. What's the question on the comment board?
They got first one I see is, was Adam Yahweh Shai?
Go ahead, Ken, you got it.
First one I saw was Adam Yahweh Shai?
All right, let's go into it. All right, let's go into the book of Romans, the 5th chapter. Right. Some good questions, man. Some good questions. Gotta shake the dust out of some of these precepts, right? Let's go to Romans 5 and 12.
It's the book of Romans, chapter 5, and verse number 12. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned.
So the one man that brought sin into the world was Adam, right? We understand it in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, right? The one man that brought life into all men is Yahweh Shai. Read on.
Verse 13. For until the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed when there is no law.
Right.
Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses.
Death reigned from Adam to Moses. People still sinned prior to Moses coming down from Mount Sinai with the laws and the commandments, because sin was in the world, right? Because laws and commandments were still in the world. Abraham kept the law. Noah kept the law. Everybody knew about the law. There was a time when all of the nations kept the law, right? Until they started doing their own thing. So nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses. Read on.
Even over them that had not sinned, after the similitude of Adam's transgression.
After the similitude of Adam's transgression. Go on.
Who is the figure of him that was to come.
Can we go to the Greek word for figure? A figure is a representation, right? So let's pull that up. Let's get that Greek word for figure. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and let's go to verse 54.
1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse number 54. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption.
Actually, I want this not what I want 20. Let me go to it. Like the 40. 1 Corinthians 15, and let's start at I want you can start at 20. What you said, what? We're gonna start at 20 first, yeah. Then we're gonna jump up.
1 Corinthians
chapter 20 through 22.
Come. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 20. But now is Hamashiach risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that sleep.
Right.
For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead.
Right. As soon as man began to die, that's when the resurrection. You can't have a resurrection without people dying. That's the point. So as soon as death enters into the world, it automatically initiates or ignites the fact that a resurrection can take place. Right? Read on.
Verse 22. For as in Adam all died, even so in Hamashiach shall all be made alive.
That's why I say he's a figure of him that was to come, because they bring forth two different works into the earth. Adam brought forth death unto all man, right? Yahweh Shai brought forth life unto all man. We know the all man for Yahweh Shai is all Israel, right? Go to you got that word in the Greek Bible shop for figure,
typos,
right?
Definition is the mark of a stroke or blow print, a figure formed by a blow or impression of a figure or image. Then you got the teaching, which embodies the sun, substance. It's a lot of definitions.
So essentially, a figure is a representation of something, right? That's what it means. Now, when you go to jump to verse 45.
1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse number 45. And so it is written, the first man Adam was made a living soul. The last Adam
The
was
who?
made, the last Adam.
So the last Adam is who? Yahweh Shai. So technically, Yahweh Shai is Adam, the last Adam. But on another level, Yahweh Shai is a figure of Adam due to what they brought, their significance of what they brought into the earth, and how it impacted man. Right? Read 45 again.
And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul.
He was made a living soul.
The last Adam was made a quickening spirit.
Right. So Yahweh Shai, it's like Adam was made living. And what does Yahweh Shai do?
Quickening.
He makes you alive. Right? One was made alive, the other one makes you alive. That's what to quicken means, to make alive. Right? Like Psalms 119 and 93, I will never forget thy precepts, for with them thou hast quickened me. Right? The word of the Most High is quick and powerful. Right? That's Hebrews chapter 4 and 12. To quicken is an ancient way of saying to make alive. So the first Adam was made a living soul. Yahweh Shai is made a quickening spirit. So there's a lot of similarities to the point where Adam is a figure of Yahweh Shai. Go to Hebrews chapter 11 real quick. Right? Let's go to Hebrews, the 11th chapter. And I want verse, bear with me. I want to say something real quick. Can we find this precept?
So 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, right? It's chiefly all of it is going into regeneration, right? Real fast, read 1 Corinthians chapter, I think it's 15, I think it's 31.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians.
Chapter 35.
1 Corinthians chapter 15.
I got it. You got it.
And verse number 35. But some men will say, how are the dead raised up?
Right.
And with what body do they come?
So the thing was, especially back then, right, you had a lot of people that didn't believe in regeneration. When you read Acts the 23rd chapter, right, I gave you the difference between the Sadducees and the Pharisees, right? So the Sadducees, they didn't believe in nothing spiritual at all. They just felt like once you died, it was over with, you was done, and you was gone, right? The Pharisees, they did, however, believe in spiritual angels and stuff like that. So this is a church, the Church of Corinth, right? They didn't have the understanding of regeneration at all.
Or the resurrection.
Right, or the resurrection, right? So he said, "How? But some man will say, how are the dead raised up?" Right? Remember when Yahweh Shai was battling I believe it was the Sadducees, right? And they said, "How is this man gonna come back?" Right? If his wife, if he dies, his wife marries the 7 brothers, right? And then she comes back, right? They thought she was gonna come back as a grown 24-year-old brother, right? So this church is dealing with the same thing, right? They didn't have the understanding of regeneration or the resurrection. So read verse 35 again.
Verse 35. Mm-hmm. But some men will say, how are the dead raised up? Mm-hmm. And with what body do they come?
So they thought that their body literally just got back up out of the grave and the spirit kind of came back into them and they just went to work again. They just went on just living their daily lives, right? Read on.
Verse 36. Thou fool, that which thou sowest is not quickened, except it dies.
So say if I took an apple and I wanted to make more apples, what do I have to do? I gotta first kill it. I have to kill it. I have to can you still say kill on YouTube?
You can say it.
I see
we'll
that.
See. We'll see.
Right. You gotta kill it first, then you plant the seed, and then what happens after that? You get more life. Right? So in order for you to get life, life has to go. Right? So drop down to verse 45.
1 Corinthians 15 and verse 45. Mm-hmm. And so it is written, the first man Adam.
That was one thing that all of these churches did have in common, right? They might not have had understanding, but they all loved Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. They all had faith in Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. So he used Yahweh Shai as an example of how regeneration works, right? Read it again.
So it is written, the first man Adam was made a living soul.
So the first man Adam was given life. Right? The first man Adam was given life. He messed up. He brought sin into the world and then died. Read on.
The last Adam was made a quickening spirit.
And the last Adam had to give life or to take sin out of the world, right? Yahweh Shah is Adam in a regeneration, right? But you had your precept?
Yeah, quick precept. Go to Hebrews 11 and verse, start at 17.
It's the book of Hebrews, chapter 11 and verse 17. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac. And he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son.
Right. Who's the only begotten son? Isaac was offered up. Isaac is called the only begotten son, and Yahweh Shah is called the only begotten son. Right, read on.
Verse 18, of whom it was said, that in Isaac shall thou seed be called.
Right.
According,
accounting,
like accounting that God was able to raise him up, even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure.
What does that mean? From whence also he received him in a figure? Because Isaac, when you deal with Adam, you deal with Isaac, you deal with Solomon, you deal with these different men that came to earth. These are regenerations and figures of Yahweh Shai on the earth. So he received Yahweh Shai, he received Isaac in the figure because Yahweh Shai was resurrected. Right? Remember, Abraham said that the Most High was going to provide a lamb. Go to Genesis chapter 20 and verse 7 real quick to show that Abraham's a prophet, and he prophesied in Genesis 22 that the Most High was going to provide a lamb. So when he offered up Isaac, he didn't kill Isaac at that time. It wasn't, his hour didn't come. But it was made manifest that when Yahweh Shah was offered up, it was the same thing of Isaac, because they were both the only begotten son, and they were both offered up by their father. All right, bring that out in Genesis 20 and 7.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 20 and verse number 7. Now therefore, restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet.
No, he's just an old man.
For he is a prophet.
For he is a prophet. Right, go on.
And he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou restore her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that are thine.
Now go to Genesis 22 and verse 7. So Abraham's a prophet. Let's see what he's about to prophesy. He prophesied of Yahweh Shai. Right? Genesis 22 and verse 7.
Genesis chapter 22 and verse 7. And Isaac spake unto Abraham, his father, and said, my father. And he said, here am I, my son. And he said, behold, the fire of the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?
Where is the lamb? Right? We're about to do this sacrifice. You said, but I don't see no animal. What's really about to be sacrificed? Right? Go on.
And Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together.
So he prophesied that Yahweh Shai would be the true sacrifice. Go to Ephesians 5 and 1. That's why it says he's called a figure in Hebrews 11. And Yahweh Shai is a figure in Hebrews 5. 2. Right? So bring that up.
Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 1. Be therefore followers of Yahweh as dear children, and walk in love as the Mashiach also have loved us.
Right.
And hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling savor.
For a sweet smelling savor. So Yahweh Shai was that lamb that was prophesied to be the sacrifice on the altar for a sweet smelling savor. So going back to the point, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 45, it's plain. The first man, Adam, was made, it's like the first, go back to it. I don't want to misquote it.
1 Corinthians 15 and verse 45. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul.
He was made a living soul. It's written in Genesis. Go on.
The last Adam was made a quickening spirit.
The first and the last. That's Yahweh Shai. I am the first, I am the last. Get that in the book of Revelation. Right? The Alpha and the Omega. The beginning and the end. Adam is the beginning. Yahweh Shai is the end. Go to Revelation, the first chapter. Go to verse 8.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse number 8. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord, which is and which was and which is to come, the Almighty.
The Almighty. Right, so that's Yahweh Shai being the first and the last. In the beginning, and he's in Revelation. Right, Genesis, Revelation, the first and the last. All right. So that's that. Probably got time.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what else we got. All right. Probably got time. Maybe one more question, depending on what it is. Maybe two more at the most. Right. Any other questions from the live?
It says, can we wear ZZs or fringes are the only things that should be on garments?
All right. Let's go into it. Can we wear zeets or should it just be fringes?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to you got it. You go to you got it. Right. I'm gonna read Numbers first. All right, this is Numbers chapter 15 and verse. So let's go to 37.
It's the book of Numbers, chapter 15 and verse 37. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of
Now
Israel.
let's go to the Hebrew word for fringes in Numbers 15 to 38. Then we're gonna go to Deuteronomy 22 and 12. We're gonna get that word as well. Right? So let's read that.
Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes and the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe on the borders a ribbon of blue.
And there's even debate now. Okay, you're supposed to have violet. You're supposed to have purple on it. If you don't have purple on your fringe, you're actually going off. Then you got a cat. They said that fringes are wicked. The Babylonian devilish fringes. Right? So there's a lot going on even with the fringes now. So it's folly, man. Keep your fringes on. Right? These are your fringes. Now you have brothers that wear the zits. Right? Now, is it a sin? The brother got is the brother going to be destroyed? Because he got no, man. You got the zits on. Go to Deuteronomy 22 and 12. Deuteronomy 22 and 12.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 22 and verse number 12. Thou shalt make thee fringes upon the four quarters of thy
So
vesture.
the brother got him on the four quarters. On one level, you have four quarters, like you have the four winds, but four quarters equal what?
100%.
100%. So you got your fringes all around your garment. Right? Go on.
Wherewith thou coverest thyself.
With which thou coverest thyself. So let's go into that word in the Hebrew.
Hebrew word for fringes in Deuteronomy 22
Yeah.
and 12 is kadil. Then it says, twisted threads, tassels, festoons.
Right. Twisted thread or tassels. So the brother got twisted threads and tassels. His are a little bit longer. I have twisted threads and tassels, but I have more along the borders of my garment. Right? Now go to Deuteronomy 22. Numbers.
In Numbers 15 and 38, it says, CC,
Zeets. Right? Go on.
fringe, tassel, lock.
So same thing. Fringe, tassel, lock. Right? Two words with a similar definition in the Hebrew. Right? You want to add on that?
No, that's what I'm going to. Right.
Yeah.
So that right. When you even go into like the Assyrian of it, you can pull it up real fast.
Syrian of it.
Well, it's in it right there. The word ZC, right? When you convert it, right, it goes into ZZ. So it's just like a longer form of it, and it kind of hangs off different. It's more so kind of like a last resort type of thing, like because Yahweh Shai had him on the hem of his garment. Our brothers know your garment kind of go down to the foot. So if you got ZZs on, right, they're gonna be dragging along, kind of in the dirt. So it's not that they're unlawful, right? But it's just like a different form of a ZZ. Like they might be cheaper or easier to put on, right, or easier to get, right? 'Cause some brothers don't know how to sew, right? And then some brothers don't have ribs that can sew, right? So some brothers it's just easier for them to kind of clip the ZZ onto the edges of their pants.
Okay. I've seen brothers with the zeets and the fringes on. Fringes on and the zeets. I'm saying. Keep your fringes on. Ribbon and a border of blue. Right? Amalek, he always got the long white ones, and they always brown at the end and mop strands. Yeah, the mop strands. And they stink and they falling off. And they clipped up with a paper clip to his cheap suit. Right?
Some of them don't even wear it. Some of them.
No, they don't. They're not even wearing a yarmulke, man. They used to put their yarmulke on with the paper clip, right? And they zeets and whatever's in that suitcase. I'm still trying to figure out what's in that suitcase they always got, man. They have kidney in there or something. You got a point?
No, I just want to ask where did the yarmulke thing even come from?
King, I don't have that. I don't have that right now.
They come from what is that? Jeremiah 10. Or no, Jeremiah. Go to Jeremiah 14:2.
Oh.
Damn, yarmulke.
Yeah.
It's Jeremiah chapter 14 and verse number 2.
Because you know, Amalek got an entire story on how they lost their melanin. Right? They say that after the siege on Jerusalem happened, they kind of some of them fled north into the Arctic, Arctic or something like that. Right? And then through not like having sun, they just like lost their melanin, or it just like left their genes over time. Right. So to justify itself, right, with Jeremiah the 14th chapter, or with certain precepts that you got, like Exodus chapter 4 and verse 6, where he was melanated, right? They go to this, right? You can read that.
Jeremiah chapter 14 and verse 2.
Mhm.
Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground.
So a lot of times, whenever you see a Jew, what is they wearing?
Black.
They're wearing an all-black suit. So when it says that they are black unto the ground, they say from your yarmulke all the way down to their boots, and you got black on. And that's where they come from. That's why they wear all black, and that's why they wear their yarmulke.
Yeah, and yeah, that's completely against the Most High.
Yeah.
Right? The Greeks made us wear a hat, man. You think King David was walking around with a yarmulke on, man? Samson, Judas Maccabees, Yahushua. He kept the law. I don't got the Lord wearing a yarmulke, man. Right? That's absolute madness, man. Some wore 2 yarmulkes. Right? Yeah, so they're going completely against the grain. There's no salt in the yarmulke, man.
At all.
Right? There's no salt in Amalek, man.
Mini hat.
Yeah, so yeah. Amalek don't excel in anything except being a devil.
Right.
They can't sing. They're not athletic. Right? They have no sense of fashion, direction, understanding, wisdom. So that's one of them heathen customs.
Curly locks.
Yeah.
You think Yahweh was bilingual?
Bilingual, Hebrew and what?
Latin, Greek, Latin?
I don't. I believe he spoke just the Hebrew.
Really?
Yeah. I mean he can do whatever he wanted to do. He's the Lord, but in his ministry, I believe he only spoke the Hebrew to the people. I mean, when you go to let's go to how did this man learn not having any letters? Was that John, Luke? Now the Lord could do what he wanted to do, right? But I can't just prove it out of the scripture that the Lord spoke Latin and Greek, right? So let's get that. That was more of a like the Apostle Paul, Silas. These men were Romans. They came from a different background. They went to more learned schools where they could learn the Hebrew, they could learn the Greek, they could learn these different languages. Yahushua didn't grow up. He came from Galilee, right? He was in Nazareth, so he didn't have the level on a carnal level. He didn't have the resources to be able to obtain that understanding to get those languages like the Apostle Paul and these other men, right? So let's go to who's that? Luke.
John.
So what?
John. Let's get that precept.
It's the book of John, chapter 7, and verse number 14. Now, about the midst of the feast, Yahushua went up into the temple and taught. And the Jews marveled, saying, how knoweth this man letters have he never learned?
Having never learned. Meaning what? He wasn't under Gamaliel, like the Apostle Paul. Right? He didn't have the tutors and governors that you read about in the book of Galatians, the 4th chapter. He didn't have that scholarly background like some of the men. That's why in Acts 4 and 13, they took knowledge that Peter and John been with Yahushua, and they said that these are unlearned and ignorant men. Right? So these men, even the Apostle Peter, when he was getting interrogated by the woman, said, do you know this man? And they said, your speech bewrayeth thee. Man, you sound like a Galilean. You got that accent, man. Right? You might meet a Jake. He might sound what they call proper, uppity. You meet a brother from the hood or something. They'll call it Ebonics, man. They'll call it hood talk or something like that. That's how the apostles was. That's how Philip, Nathaniel, Peter, John. A lot of them came from Yahushua. They came from that hood, background, for lack of a better term. So he didn't have the resources to go and learn these things. But Yahushua could do what he wanted to do, right? But there's no account of him proving reading these or going into these other languages. So when he went to the Apostle Paul, he spoke the Hebrew to Paul, and Paul spoke multiple languages too in Acts 26:14 or that.
So when this is Matthew 27:46, it says, "And about the ninth hour, Yahweh shall cry with a loud voice, saying, Eli, lama sabachthani." That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? It says, some of them that stood there when they heard that said, "This man calleth for Elias." So what if he was saying that? Wouldn't they have understood what he was saying if he was speaking the Hebrew?
Well, in the Hebrew, a lot when they said, let's read that Matthew 27:46. Let's read it again. Elias in the Hebrew is Alayah. So Alayah in the Hebrew,
My father.
sounds like my God.
Yeah.
It sounds exactly the same. Elijah means Yahweh is God. So Alayah is my God. Allah is God, and Yah at the end makes it possessive, like singular possessive. So Alayah is my God, but if you say Elijah, you will also say Alayah. But the Yah doesn't mean my for Elijah. Yah means Yahweh for Elijah.
Okay.
So that's why they said, well, he's calling for Elijah, but he was saying, my God, Alayah. That's what they call a homonym or a homophone, I think, in this man's world. So bring that out in Matthew 27:46. Can you pull up a homonym?
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 27 and verse 46. About the ninth hour, Yahweh Shai cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God,
Right, my God,
why hast thou forsaken me?
Right, so they knew he was speaking the Hebrew. They understood him, but they didn't know what he was saying. They didn't know if he was calling for Elijah or if he was saying, my God, because they literally sound the exact same. Again, Alayah is Yahweh, which is Elijah, is Yahweh is God. And then you have Alayah, which means my God. Allah is God, and Yah is a possessive suffix that means my. So they sound exactly the same. So let's pull that definition up, Baba Kishar.
You said pull up the definition of what?
A homonym. I believe that's Esau's word, HOMONYM. Right? See if we can find that. Like blue. Right? Blue, BLEU,
Like blue cheese.
Yeah, same.
BLEU.
Like gray.
Yeah, gray.
G-R-A-Y.
Yeah, you might yell out something. I'm like, damn, did he say he blew something? Or did he say about the color? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that they didn't know what the Lord was saying.
It says homonym. Each of two or more words having the same spelling or pronunciation, but different meanings and origins.
Right, so that was a homonym. You have English homonyms, you have Hebrew homonyms. And if you're not keeping things, if they didn't know, if they would have read Psalms and they understood the scriptures, right, it tells you, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? So let's get that in Psalms chapter 22. And they would have understood, oh, he's fulfilling prophecy. But remember, the Lord blinded them. That's why they didn't have the understanding. Right? So let's go to Psalms chapter 22.
The book of Psalms, chapter 22, and verse number 1. My God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Read that again.
My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from helping me?
Right, so that's him fulfilling prophecy. And if they were studied and well learned, they would have understood that Yahweh on the cross was fulfilling the prophecy, and he wasn't calling for Elijah. He was fulfilling what was written of him. All right?
God, I got a precept in John chapter 19 and verse 19.
The book of John, chapter 19, and verse number 19.
Right.
And it reads, and Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross. And the writing was, Yahushua of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. This title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Yahushua was crucified was nigh to the city. And it was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin.
So it said that it was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin, right? But every Jew had to read it. As you had some Hebrews that didn't understand Hebrew, right? That's why it had to be written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. You had some people that only spoke Greek or only spoke Latin, but they might know a name. Just like most of the brothers now, they don't actually speak Hebrew. But if you tell them, ask them what Moses' name was, they're going to say Masha, right? Because they know certain words in Hebrew. So when it came down to like Elijah's name, right, like how your brother said, They would know Elias Salakia, but they might not know that it was like different words in the Hebrew that sounded just like it as well. So they wasn't like versed on the Hebrew how some Jews was. So you might have some that spoke Greek or Latin. It's like, is he calling for Elijah? Because that's literally the only word that they know, right? But they don't know what that word, like, they don't know what he was actually saying.
That's another good point. Remember, and like I tell you, they came from all different lands. Like Acts 2 and 5, they were devout Jews from every nation of the heaven, right? So they had to put this in these 3 different languages. Latin was the main language of Rome, their official language. Greek was the most popular language, and Hebrew was amongst the Jews. So you had to have those 3 languages on there. But yeah, that was the Hebrew that he spoke. So you'll hear scholars say, no, it was Aramaic, right? Or no, it wasn't Aramaic, it was the actual Hebrew, right? But they'll throw that in there, without understanding what the Aramaic actually is and who it comes from, that origin. I got a quick precept. Let's go to Genesis chapter 31. Right? Quick precept. Let's go to Genesis chapter 31. Right? And this is the time of, let's go to 31 and 45. This is Jacob and Laban. Now, they both spoke Hebrew, right? But we're going to find out something about the language. Go to Genesis 31 and 45.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 31 and verse 45. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, gather stones, and they took stones and made an heap, and they did eat upon the heap.
Right.
And Laban called it Jahar Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed.
Right.
And Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galeed.
Now these names, when you look it up, they both mean witness when you go back to the Hebrew. But they have different dialects of the Hebrew, right? So Aram, remember Jacob went to Padan Aram. Padan Aram was the land that Laban, Bethuel, Rebecca, where they dwelt at. And they spoke a different dialect of the Hebrew than what Jacob actually spoke. So that's why he called it this name and Jacob called it this name. They're both speaking Hebrew, and they have 2 names that mean the same thing, because Aramaic is a Hebrew dialect for the people that lived in Aram. Remember, Aram was one of the sons of Shem, right? Shem had his 5 sons. He had Arphaxad, he had Aram, he had Elam, he had Ashur, and he had Lud. And they all spoke Hebrew. When they branched off, the Hebrew kind of shifted. So the Lydians, or the people of Lud, they spoke a slightly different Hebrew than what Jacob spoke. And the people of Syria, like Bethuel and them, they spoke a slightly different Hebrew. And that's what happens with languages throughout time. As you begin to shift and migrate for whatever the reason may be, rather it's war, whether you're a refugee, or rather the cattle or the land is there for you, the language tends to shift. So that's why that's another example of them both speaking Hebrew, because they communicated with each other, but they had 2 words that both meant witness for the same thing. Right? You got something, King?
Kind of like pop and soda.
Yeah, like pop and soda. Yeah. From Detroit, we'll say pop. Chicago, Milwaukee, everybody say pop here. If you go to Baltimore, you say pop, they looking at you crazy, man. It's not soda pop. What do you think? No, man, it's pop, man. They say I can't. You can't pay me to say soda. Just don't sound right, man. It's off. It's almost wicked. Almost. So you got that's a good example, though, right? Jake, depending on where you at, same language, 2 different words for the same thing. You got a point too, King?
I thought it was Judges 11, but just like when Ephraim.
Oh yeah, 12. It's Judges 12. Yeah, but Sheba left.
Yeah, Judges chapter 12 and verse 6.
It's the book of Judges, chapter 12 and verse number 6. And it reads, then said they unto him, say now, Shibboleth.
Right, this is when they was into it with Ephraim, right? And they was trying to figure out when they crossed the line whether somebody was an Ephraimite or not, Ephraimite or not, right? Read on.
And he said, Sibboleth, for he cannot frame to pronounce it right.
So when you go into the Hebrew or you go into the blue letter and you look at it, right, Shibboleth and Sibboleth is two completely different words, but they mean the same thing. Right? Ephraim just had like a different dialect on how they spoke. Even now, right, with Spanish, right, Ephraim Spanish and Mexican Spanish is two completely different Spanish.
Right.
Right. I think they call Ephraim like dirty Spanish or something like that. Yeah. So it's a different type of Spanish, even though it's like the same language. So the Hebrew kind of worked the same way. That's why a lot of times, like you will see a brother say, some brothers say rakah, and then some brothers say rawat when it comes down to the word spirit.
Right.
Right. You have two different like ways to say the same word. It's just a slang on it.
I want to make this quick. This from the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 51. Here's the definition of Aramaic. It reads, a West Semitic language closely related to Hebrew, which developed various dialects. Genesis chapter 31 and 47, I believe we read that, calls attention to Laban's use of Aramaic in contrast to Jacob's use of Hebrew. That Aramaic had become the language of Assyrian diplomacy is clear from 2 Kings 18 and 26 and Isaiah chapter 36 and 11. And when you read that account, that's when Rabshakeh, and he spoke to the people. They said, speak to us in the Jews' language, for we understand it. Right? But he was speaking to them in what? In Aramaic. But they understood it, because he said, I came to speak to the people that's on the wall. Right? In 2 Kings the 18th chapter. Right? Let's get that quick account. 2 Kings 18 and 26. So they're the same thing, but it's like a different dialect, like the brother said. I met a brother from Jamaica. He said that people in Trinity, he got a hard time understanding the people in Trinidad, man. Because they're both, have a so-called Caribbean accent, but that distance and that time, right, patois, different form of patois, kind of makes it hard for the brother to kind of communicate. So let's bring it up, 2 Kings 18 and 26.
2 Kings chapter 18 and verse number 26. Then said Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and Shebna, and Joah unto Rabshakeh, speak, I pray thee, to thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it.
For what?
For we understand it.
Just like Jacob understood Laban. For we understand it.
And talk not with us in the Jews' language and the ears of the people that are on the wall.
So these guys, these Rabshakeh and these Assyrians, they can speak the Hebrew fluently, right? And they can speak the Aramaic. They can speak both. They can speak the dialect of the Hebrew and the Lashon Kodash, or what they call the Lashon Tahar, which is the pure tongue. The Aramaic isn't the pure tongue. Yahweh Shah spoke the pure tongue, right? He was born in Judea, right? He lived in Galilee, rather, right? His father was a Jew. His father was a Jew before him. So they spoke that pure Hebrew language, right? Contrary to what most so-called scholars would say.
Kind of like French and Creole.
Right, yeah, French and Creole. Creole's like what? Broken French mixed with something like native dialect and English and stuff like that. That's kind of the same thing with these languages in the scriptures. Anything else? You got it.
Is that it?
I mean, other questions.
Yeah, so if we didn't get to your question, we may do a part 2, Lord willing, and go from there through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah.